Thank you for this great introduction. I didn't understand the word, so sorry. My Russian is very bad. Um, okay, half of the people is not in yet because of the snow, so you're the lucky ones, I think. Today I want to bring you on a journey of a DevOps transition, where you can enable your team to run changes directly in production. I think that sounds very good. So I mainly talk about big organizations here because that's a bit the topic. So the topics I would like to cover today are the current situation, how the journey looks like, what pitfalls and some experience I have, and the to-be situation, the so-called promised land. And I will talk about organization, application delivery, and infrastructure delivery in this. So, who is here standing in front of you? My name is Heistek. I'm father of 2 children. I like to do sports, cycling, and I work together with Container Solutions. And Container Solutions is a company specialized in programmable infrastructure, microservices, and continuous delivery. I used to work at ING Bank, a big financial organization within the Netherlands, where we started 4 years ago with the whole DevOps and continuous delivery transition for about 180 teams, so that was quite big. And I had the privilege to be part of that and also to drive this whole transition. Before we go on, I like to explain some words, what they mean to me. And I'm not going to sum up all the definitions here, but just to give you some context. So let's start with the application delivery. So then I talk about continuous delivery. And continuous delivery for me means the delivery of software in an automated, a controlled way, so you can release software at any time you want in short cycles. If we look at infrastructure, I will want to mention cloud computing. And cloud computing to me means you can use infrastructure as a commodity, like you use water from the tap or electricity. It's always there, it always works. You do not have to care about the production of it. And cloud native is one step further. Cloud native to me is the ability to provision infrastructure, stage and deploy your application, take care of the application health needs and scalability in an automated way without human intervention. So infrastructure as code, so to say. Agile. Agile for me means that you are able to adapt as an organization or as a person to all kinds of circumstances in a controlled and fast way. And now DevOps. DevOps for me means all of this and more. DevOps is a mindset and a state of mind you have, and it's not a tool, because DevOps is what you are. And I really like the acronym COMS in this. Probably you heard of this. It's culture, automation, metrics, and sharing. That's what DevOps stands for. And there's no other manifesto or whatsoever. And the culture part I like most because that's the hardest part to change in organizations. Like you need to be getting better as a team, getting better as a person, getting better every day. And when we talk about automation, we talk about your software delivery and also your infrastructure delivery. You need to see if you can automate all the repetitive work, all the stupid work, so you have room for fun things. And so you can get rid of these things because computers and programs can do it all. And metrics in this is you have to measure everything. Everything you see, yourself, your team, your system health, your customer needs, your customer feedback, not to control, but to get better. And that's the most important thing. So you can improve yourself by measuring everything. And sharing is what I'm doing here. And don't share only your success stories, but also your failures. I think it's good to make failures, not on purpose, but if you don't make failures, you don't learn. So DevOps is all about system thinking, about your production environment, because where's the money in your company? In your production environment. And as soon as that breaks, there's no money. You cannot earn any money. So the whole company should be aware of this and act to that. It's also about shorten the whole feedback loop, so getting feedback fast, instantly, so you can improve, and continuous learning in this case. So these are my explanations, what they mean to me. And now, if we look at the organization as it is now, we see that a lot of organizations are built up in so-called silos. So this is a simplified overview. So we got a business, we got some project management, and we got some IT silo. What does it mean? Is that the value of the product is not in the silo itself, but it's over there. It's cross silos. And in most companies, the silos itself have their own culture, their own management, their own processes, their own goals, and that means that these are more important than the customer needs. So you get a lot of handovers in this. That means a lot of waste. So you need to translate some business requirements, and we've got a whole project management team that translates this to IT. And then within IT, we also see more silos. Not only in IT, but also in other silos. But let's focus on IT, because we're talking about DevOps here. And let's see how these are related in IT. Probably you know this picture, the wall of confusion. Who did see it before? Yeah? Who didn't see it? Okay. So a famous picture, probably you can recognize this, is that on this side we got the developers, and on the other side we have the operators. And the developers have their goals to change, because that's what they will be paid for, and that's what they rewarded for. But on the other end, we got on the other side of the wall, we have got operations. And operations wants stability, because they commit to a 99.999% uptime. So that clashes. And both are good, because you need change and you need stability. But you need to have a common goal in this. So there's no common goal in IT. So you got real development and operations. So this is a simplified overview, but in real life, you've got even more walls of confusion behind the walls of confusion. So the problem is that every department has its own goals. Every department has its own KPIs. And in the end, does it contribute to the customer? Because the customer is where it's all about. I don't know. I don't think so. So how does this translate to your application delivery? If we look at that, and in this example, I'm going to stand here a bit. In this example, we already have a project budget that has been arranged. We have a project team. We don't have any automation or hardly any automation in place. And our cycle of delivering from idea towards value is 6 months. And this is, I think, a real-life example. So you see all kinds of people. So we start here. Someone gets the input, doesn't talk to all the other departments, puts that in a document, send it to someone who analyzes, an information analyst, for example. Then it goes to the designers. They start designing. Maybe they will consult someone who will translate the requirements, and then it goes back again. And then we send it to our build team, our developers. And I'm only talking about changing IT here. So they start to build. If you're lucky, there's someone who is keeping up with the version control, and there are people who are doing a code check. After that, it goes to the test department, and they first they will write all kinds of test plans. They will allocate all kinds of testers, and they will do some tests. Imagine this will go all well. So we're talking about the happy flow, and in the end you will deploy it to your staging environment or to your production environment, and something breaks. So now what? So now we have to go all the way back to maybe first we go to the build team. So what you build, it doesn't work, and this person said, yeah, well, I'm not on this project anymore, and it was already 3 months ago, so I don't have a clue. So check the documentation or go to the tester. Maybe they changed something. So this whole cycle is a long cycle, and you deliver a big chunk of new software instead of a small piece. So in the end, you deliver something, and if it doesn't work, you need to get feedback from here. The feedback loop is too long. So if we look at the deploy part here, how does it work now? How do we deploy? We deploy like this. So first we go to a development environment. If you don't have a development environment, you probably use your own laptop or your own PC. And then we put it on test. We do some functional tests there. And then we go to acceptance environment where it's more production-like. So we got more servers there, so we can do some stress testing or some other testing. And then in the end, we will deploy it on production, where I think everyone should have multiple data centers set up, and you have an active-active or active-passive mode in this. So this is the way we deploy at the moment. And it takes, and all these environments are not in sync. So if something breaks, just I showed here, if something breaks when you start to deploy, and you will be called in the middle of the night, and you fix it on your production environment. And then you go to bed again, you make a note, sync all the other environments, so we got the same versions of software. So you come to your work the next day, and they say, you have to do this, you have to do this, so you forget it. So these environments are not in sync at all. So if we're going to look at the delivery of these environments, so your infrastructure delivery, so we got here the same process of software delivery, and then your test department says, hey, we need some extra servers. We need an acceptance environment because we need to scale it because of the stress testing or some other reason. So this person goes to the infrastructure department, mostly your colleagues, and he said, hey, give me this one server. And he said, okay, fine. Do you have budget? Sorry, do you have budget? No. So you go back to your project leader and say, I need budget. So your project leader gets angry because it's not in the plan, so he needs to write an exceptions report, etc. And in the end, he gets a budget. A couple of weeks later, so you go back to your colleague from at infrastructure, and he says, or she says, that's fine, let me find a project leader for you, and he will arrange everything. So a project leader comes on, you need to pay the project leader, and then the specifications will go to the department who really going to order the server and maybe configure it for you or put an operating system on it. And in the end, they will deliver it, and they will have some security checklist. Say, here you go. And then you have basically nothing after 3 months. So this is a real life example. I've seen it in multiple environments, multiple companies. It takes that long to set up a server or set it up. You've got your server, and then you need to install your application, and hopefully you have all the access right to do so. Otherwise you have to go back to your colleagues again. So this is not ideal. It can be if you're fine with that, and if you're not, if your company makes a lot of money and you just go with that. But for me, it's very frustrating. So I would like to take you now on the journey towards the promised land, and I want to do so on the golden circle of Simon Sinek. Who have heard of this? Yeah, yes, a few. You are speakers, so you. I will elaborate more. It's about how you should think as a company in this example. and how you should act that and how you can improve yourself. But first let me bring you to some triggers for changes. There can be multiple triggers to change your whole way of working or the whole setup of your automation. I summed up 5, maybe there are more or less, it depends on the organization. So let's first, you will lose from your competitors. Your goal is to keep your position in the market, and you see your competitors are moving faster than you are. You cannot respond to market circumstances or changes, and the only thing you would like to do is to keep up with them or be ahead. So that's a trigger for change, otherwise you will lose market share. You have a lot of failed changes. So as I saw, you after 6 months you bring something to production and things break. It happens. So you constantly are firefighting all the incidents, and you do not have any room for innovation. Like this fireman, he likes to innovate, but he's just doing this all the time, working in weekends, working at night, and when he comes to the office, then other things will be more important than thinking of future plans. So that's what you want to change as well. So you want to bring down the number of your failed changes and incidents in production. Costs, a really important trigger. Your costs of maintenance and production are too high, so your product will get too expensive in the end, and then customers probably will go to your competitor. Your time to market isn't fast enough. So you know what your customer wants, and you can do everything you'd like to, and then you want to go, and it takes long and long and long because you got all the departments going on, and finally when you go live, they don't want what they don't happy with what they see because they want something else. And of course, last but not least, the unhappy customers. If you cannot commit to your promises you make to your customers, they will leave. So that's also an important trigger in this. So I named 5 triggers that can drive you to a change, but how should you change? So let's go back to the golden circle of Simon Sinek. I created a golden pyramid. So most companies act in the what. All companies know what they do, how they make the what for kind of products you make, but how they do it, not everyone knows that, and certainly not the why. What's the purpose of your company? Why do you exist? And the why is not about earning money, because earning money is a result of the purpose of your company, because that's where you go for, that's what you want, and that's what makes you unique as a company. And this is where it all goes wrong, because a lot of companies say, hey, my competitor is doing DevOps or cloud native, or name some buzzword. We're going to do the same. And that doesn't work, because then you're only working in the what. So you need to think about the purpose of your company. And it doesn't, that emerges, because you don't go sit together, what's our purpose? Then you have to think about it, and then you come up with a great vision, and you have a mission, you've got your strategy, and then your actions, what contribute to this whole mission. So, and if you don't, if you're acting in this space, that means that you easily can drift away. So you can, you don't know exactly where to go. So how can you avoid drifting away? Define your why. Put this dot on the horizon, so you always know this. I want to go that way a bit, and all the choices you make contribute to that bigger picture. Also, you need to dream big. This is what I want, and you don't go there with giant steps. You just take baby steps to go there. And if something fails, it's easily to do one step back, learn, and can go on. And a very important thing is when you start automating all your stuff, your process, don't start to automate your current process. As I showed in the picture with all the people, if you start automating a process like that, then you still are acting in the what. For example, if a security department says you need to comply to all these security aspects before you go to production, so you've got a whole process for that, and you start trying to automate it. But you can also ask them, why is this process there? And they probably will say, we don't want anyone to touch something into production. Okay, then we go to production in read mode, so we don't need your checklist anymore. So the application does what it does, and then we go to production, and if it breaks, so we deploy it again. And that's a total different mindset, so of automating your whole process. And also trust your people in this. If you go, if you give your team the trust to make failures, to solve their own failures, they will getting better. And as long as they contribute to the why, let them go. And as I already said, what shouldn't you do at all is copy pasting. So don't go to another company and say, hey, they do DevOps, we do DevOps. I don't know what it means, but let's start it. It sounds cool, and it will solve all our problems, and we will get a lot of money from that. So I heard a lot of examples. We want to be the next Netflix. We want to be the next Spotify. You're a bank. Netflix is showing movies, and you're handling money. But the idea is good, but don't copy that. So, so you are as a company, you are unique. And I want to show this picture. Is that this is a typical example of Netflix or Spotify. Let's be the next Netflix. You just copy what they're doing, and it doesn't work. Yeah, duh. So you need to go to other companies, look at them. How do they do it? Steal ideas, go back to your company, see how you can implement it, how does this contribute to our why, to our purpose of the company. So you will not become a second Batman, you will become your own superhero, your own company with your own values and purpose. Also, I want to show you something about the copy-paste. This is maybe a little bit overdone. But if you see time here and profit, and there's some point you need to change, and you're becoming your own superhero with DevOps or the new way of working, then the money making will be a result. And if you start copy pasting, then in the end you will probably make more cost to change because you're just copying it. So. I talked about the current situation, the organization with silos, your application delivery, long cycle times, your infrastructure delivery, a lot of frustration, a lot of waiting times. Now, where should you think of if you start your journey towards your promised land, and what shouldn't you do? So now I would like to take you to the so-called promised land. Also, I will talk about organization, infrastructure delivery, and application delivery and infrastructure delivery. First of all, get rid of your silos. Make teams, departments, whatever, more on product focus, or even better, customer focus. So you can use your feedback directly to add, to make value to the product. So of course this also needs some changes in probably in your application architecture, but this is how it should be. Short interactions, people, teams working together, people working together. No project management anymore, because they are a waste. Sorry if there are any project managers here in the room. Maybe you can find, or no waste. It's the way of working. So if in this picture you do not need any project managers because you get direct feedback, and in this case you have all the measurements in place. So that's not done in one night. Your application delivery. 6 months to 6 days, or 6 hours, 6 minutes. It means that you have one team creating value from idea to value. And you see the process is the same. You still have your input, your analysis, design, build, test, but you've got this instant feedback loop. In this picture, everything has been automated. So if this person or she is committing the code, and all lights are on green, test passed, it goes directly to production. And if something fails, so a test fails, that means you got this instant feedback. You know what you've done the same day or 2 days before, but you do not know what you have done 3 months ago on Monday morning when you had a party on Sunday night. So this is instant feedback. And also in this is still changing IT. And if we talk about running IT, we probably come into ITIL. You know ITIL? Change management. So you also automate your ITIL processes. So your change management, for example, if all your tests has been done and it's all stored, you're all logged, and then you have an interface with your service management system, and they say, okay, this has been done, this has been done, this has been done. Okay, let's go. And for your configuration management database, you can also update your configuration item automatically. And in most companies, you need to fill in a form, get 3 signatures, bring it to this person, and then you have to go to your change advisory board. And the change advisory board is only once in every 3 weeks. So in this case, you can go whatever you like to, because you automated all the stuff. All the checks are in tools. So how does our DTAP look like? So we don't have it anymore. We have just one environment, and that's the production environment. Nothing more, nothing less. And if you make a change, you build up your whole production environment from scratch. And that means, and as soon as all the tests has been passed, this one will be destroyed. That one will be your new production environment. But that one cannot work if you still have the old process of infrastructure delivery. So you cannot wait for 3 months every time. So if we look at the same process again, so we got still the same process, and at some point you need an extra server, or an extra server. You want to scale. And then we're talking about cloud native. So your infrastructure is handled as code. So there is no one touching infrastructure. Your infrastructure is handled as code. So there are a lot of tools out there in the market getting developed every day. And the most beautiful thing about it is if you make it cloud agnostic, that means then you can deploy it in every cloud you like to, the cheapest one or the fastest one, and you can scale it. So this is not a matter of 3 months, but just a matter of milliseconds, seconds to spin up environments. So you can spin it up, do tests, throw it away, and then in the end you just spin up your new production environment. How about the time? Is that oh yeah, cool. Yeah. It's a little bit faster than I expected. So infrastructure delivery in your promised land. And now I want to sum it up a bit because I talked about the current situation, your journey, and how the promised land looks like. And it's a long journey. So if you start your transition, as I already said, don't start copy-pasting. And you also need to take into account all kinds of pillars of change. Because you cannot only start automating, because there are other things has to be done as well. It's just if you go to the gym, they say never skip a leg day. It is the same as DevOps. in here, it's hard to read, is it? Okay, I will explain. Before, after. If you talk about your company organization, how is your company organized? Is it profit driven? Is it driven from the what in the pyramid, or is it culture, purpose driven? Why do you exist as a company? You have to make this change. Your work methodology here, is it waterfall structure? Still project management, big chunks of software bringing live, or you're going to work towards an agile organization, being agile as an organization? How does your implementation look like? Is it all manual or continuous delivery? And continuous delivery in this case is also your infrastructure delivery. And over there, your architecture, how is your application build up? Is it a big monolith? So if you have a big monolith and you want to do continuous delivery on that, so you can make a small adjustment there and then it breaks here. And then you have a real big problem. So you need to break that down towards microservices. There are some talks about microservices today as well. And in the end, the environment you're working in, is that very autocratic? So it's just very management driven from a hierarchy, and you say you have to do this, this, and this, or you're moving towards fully self-steering autonomy teams. You don't have to change it all at once, because you can't. But what I see in a lot of companies, they say, hey, we're going to do agile, we're going to do Scrum. So there I go at 11 o'clock in the morning, ting, so stand up, good. Sit down, everyone doing your own work. That's not how you can change. It's a start though, that's good. But still you need to focus where do we want to go? How does my architecture look like? Can we do full continuous delivery if we still have a monolith? Well, maybe you should break down your application first, or take a small one, take baby steps, and to come there. So this is also a takeaway I want to give you. The most important message in this is that never copy paste, be unique, be your own company, and never skip a leg day in DevOps. Yeah, thank you. Some room for questions, I think. 5 minutes. Anyone? Yeah.
Вопросы? Кто готов? Если вас не затруднит, микрофон хорошо, чтобы слышали все, пожалуйста.
Oh, okay.
Good morning.
Hi.
Excuse me, I have a question. How do you deal with compliance? For example, as an example, PCI DSS demands to separate product environment and test environment. But as you've shown, all delivery is going straight to production.
Yeah.
And auditors won't be happy about that. So what should you do to be compliant with all these regulators which are a step back in time? How do you change your organization?
Yeah, good question. If you are in the state of only have one production environment, they are already in the whole new way of working. Yeah? And I've been there with the compliance department, talking about continuous delivery, how they can contribute to this, and what we can deliver. So because they still wanted to have all kinds of forms filled in, and I said, well, we got all the audit here. Automatically, I can push the button and you have it. So I took them on the journey, took them on so-called safari, showed how teams were working, and make them also be part of this journey by thinking, how can you help us to make it even go better, so we can deliver faster to our customer. Because you do not ignore these compliance rules, because they're there for a reason, and we should act to that. And so you can, step by step, you can automate these regulations. Yeah. There's no tool for it or such. Yeah.
Thank you. One more, please.
If talking about teams which are self-sufficient to do the delivery, is it preferable to have specific people doing the DevOps, or it's implied that developers also can contribute? What is the best approach here?
Yeah, first of all, for me, DevOps is something in your whole organization. So it's the mindset, and you cannot ask a developer to arrange some great monitoring, for example. But you work together as a team. So in that team, the competencies are there to make this great product. So, but the developer needs to know how it works in production, what kind of monitoring is there. But another person has more competencies to act to that. So it's I call it multidisciplinary teams. But it doesn't mean that everyone should have the same capabilities to do so. Everyone has his own specific strength, and keep it like that.
Thank you. One more question, please.
How is testing performed in that short delivery loop where only production exists?
Here?
Testing in which case?
In testing here?
Yeah.
Yeah. What you
here
can do
or on separated environment, or exactly on production?
Okay, your question is, how do we test before we set that one live?
Yes, yes.
Okay. What you can do in this case, here, if you need test environments to do functional tests or whatever, so you can create your infrastructure, production-like or just for that test. You can do all your tests, so you deploy your application on that, so the new application, new version. And after that, you can say, okay, test has been done. So here's the audit logs, and we destroy that test instance again. And you can do that multiple times. And in the end, okay, all test has been done. Now we spin up a whole new production environment, deploy it, and then put it to production. So still, you have some. You don't have your classic DTAP because you got You can call it like that, but it's more like a staging. But you do your tests on the production-like environment because you build it up from scratch.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, I have a small question. So, how to be with database migrations and updating database in such structure when we have only production environment? So it's probably could be unsafe in case of sensitive data.
Can you repeat the question? I just missed. How to act in?
How to be with upgrading databases in case of such approach?
Yeah. That's a good one. I've been thinking about that as well. At this moment, it's database probably here. So we're talking only about your application, and not the data. This would be nice if the data can be there as well, but you need to have a consistent storage of your data. So for now, this will be the future. I don't know how data will be involved, how you can recreate it, and so for now it's still a database connected. Yeah. Okay.
Еще вопросы, пожалуйста. Вопросы? Нет вопросов. Есть вопрос, пожалуйста.
Oh, in this case, when you have dedicated teams which work on the separate types of the feature of the product, do you have still maybe some kind of shared infrastructure components and how you work with it?
Yeah,
like
sure.
Database or some layer with.
Yeah, sure.
Shared.
That means that you try to be as self-steering as possible. It's also depending on your application architecture, how the database application has been set up. So, but in this case, you try to do everything as a team, but you have a lot of communication with other teams. So you have a lot of dependencies. There can be dependencies.
So if this is a shared components, some which use all of the teams, who is responsible for this component and how they operate?
In this case, the product owner who defines the priorities and put it in the team. So you're as teams, you're responsible for the same component, but you should know how you should act to that. That's a good question. So there are multiple ways to act to this.
Коллеги, вопросы еще, пожалуйста. Все, в таком случае, будем считать, что здесь с сессией вопросов мы завершили. I want to ask you to take a present from the team of organization.
Oh, thank you very much.
В общем, organization team. I hope you will understand what I mean.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your job for us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I ask you about applause? Thank you. Have a nice day. Thank you very much. And we can speak with you until the coffee break. Yeah?
I will be walking around, so if you have any questions, you can find me.